Hello there, and welcome back to building time-lapse, whatever. I need a name for this series. If there's any recommendations, please tell me. But today I've decided to build a Tuscany Village, which was recommended to me by one of you guys. So thank you so much for the recommendation, and I had a lot of fun. So if you have any more, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. I decided to make this very different than my normal bases. Typically, what I do is I build the entire thing, and so that from every angle you can tell it's a build. But while I was looking at the Tuscany villages, I noticed they're very complex, compact, and there's a lot going on. And I didn't know how to really design that out. So instead what I did is I took a picture and then I angled myself in a specific pose, and then I designed the build to look good from that position instead of doing the opposite, which I usually do. So here you can see I'm terraforming the land around, and then I'm starting on the left side and bringing the village around in kind of like a semicircle. And it does take a while, and I'm also trying to play with color palette, using color theory to like push builds back and bring others forward. So the lighter the block, the more close your eye interprets the shape to be. So I'm trying to like play with that, and I do it a lot more at the end, but this is definitely a more complicated build. I think I've mentioned it a few times before, but I consider myself a very lazy builder. So this took me a very long time to not only figure out how I wanted to do it, but also to get the angles right. And you can see, you're gonna see it a lot throughout this build, me just flying back and forth from the position that I chose to the actual build itself. And honestly, it took me a good while. This is why, I mean, if you know my uploads, I try and do every 4 days, but this took me, I think we're approaching a week now, because it's a Tuscany villages are very beautiful color palettes, and the way they interact with each other is truly just amazing. But it's also very complex to build, especially angled like the picture I chose, which I haven't made the thumbnail yet, so it might be in the thumbnail. There might be a link in the description of the image I chose to base this off of, but it's very complex, compact, and there's a lot going on. So what I tried to do, and you probably can't see it very good from this angle, but in a moment you will be able to, is every time one of the buildings ends, I use either spruce logs or stripped spruce logs to make a color shift and add in a false shadow so that you think that there is a pathway going there. So basically throughout this build, what I'm trying to do, and you can see it right there, these little spruce pillars, I'm trying to trick your brain into believing that there is more detail than what I truly put in, which is very different than what I usually do. For example, my Greek build, I just went around, I built the entire thing, detailed on all sides, and you can walk through it. This one is more, I consider this more like a painting than I do a building, which is really weird. I went to art school, so this is like, it's kind of my thing, but it's also so complicated. Like, I don't know how to explain it. And a lot of this is, once again, doing something, flying back, looking at it from a distance, and then going back in. Because fun things about art school is not only are you learning perspective and like color theory, you're also learning that distance matters. In most museums, you'll actually see that the images are displayed right around the average eye level and around 10 feet away from people. So I'm trying to include those weird things into this build, and honestly, it's really complicated. to do in Minecraft. I guess I'm just kind of used to charcoal base, and this is not that. Minecraft building is a bit different than charcoal. I will say I used a very similar color palette. You can see at the very beginning of the build, I laid out my color palette, which I don't usually do. Usually I just kind of scroll through and I'm like, this is good, this will make it better, whatever. But I laid out my color palette here because these blocks and these textures are so overlapped and they're so similar. Tuscany Villages, they're beautiful, and it's so interesting how they are similar. All the buildings are slightly unique, but also different, and they're also similar. So what I'm trying to do in this build is basically keep everything looking similar through either shape of the build or through texture or pretty much anything I can figure out. Also, I don't know why I use sand right there. I know it looks bad, but I was trying to make a focal point for the image because this right here is the angle that I wanted you to see it from. And I wanted to bring your eye to the centermost point. And I used a really light block to try and accomplish that. At the end, I do go back and I think I changed it to a combination of birch and oak planks, which I think looks a lot better. And another thing I wanted to mention is that Tuscany Villages have a really interesting thing where they interact with the mountain, specifically the one I chose, interacts with the mountain. Like, it looks like it's coming up from the hill in the mountain. And so towards the end, I do actually bring the whole kind of mountain base that I started forward to make it interact a bit more with the actual buildings and the village, which I quite like because it's so beautiful how the villages look like they just came up from the mountain. I'm from America. I don't know if you can tell by my horrible accent. But a lot of our houses and stuff like that, they don't really have this, I don't know, kind of flow to it. I don't know how to explain it. They don't have, the houses look like they are there. They don't look like they interact with the surrounding. And that's what I truly admire about Tuscany Villages, because they do have that look that they are interacting with the environment around them, and it's truly just so beautiful to see. Especially, so I majored in architecture in college because I'm lame. And in architecture, everything is just so, I don't know how to explain it other than just there. And so truly doing all this is so much fun. And here I do want to mention, you can see just me playing with that perspective of trying to push the blocks in different unique directions. Of course, the whole game just glitched out right there, but I built this whole thing on an angle because I'm not smart, and I apparently wanted to challenge myself even more than this already would be. So as you can see, I'm making a semicircle and trying to bring blocks forward and back, for example. And then I'm also trying to cover up these weird empty patches. So right here, this is a building that's actually from the picture that I'll either have in the description or the thumbnail. I'm not 100% sure. But if you look around it, there's a lot of empty space in the background. And I want the village to look like it continues forever, because that's kind of the aesthetic that they have. And this currently just doesn't really have that. So what I end up doing around this point is I'm actually going back and forth, trying to find empty spots where your eye lingers too long because there's nothing there. And I'm also finally replacing all of the stupid, weird skin colored blocks that no one should ever use. I hate that block so much, and I continue to use it. Anyways, I want the village to look like it continues forever and just keeps going, even though I don't have the time to actually make that look like it does continue forever. So what I end up doing is I'm flying back and forth trying to find those empty spots, and then adding in buildings or textures or something to just make a full build feel like it goes back more than it actually does. Because this entire terrain or build space, I suppose, it's probably about 1,000 blocks. No, like 500 blocks by 500 by, I don't know how tall it is. I'm bad with heights. But I wanted it to look as if though it just continues going. And once again, perspective-wise, I need to work on my perspective. Especially in Minecraft. Perspective in Minecraft is so difficult, and I really need to work on that. I feel like I have texture down pretty decently and a whole bunch of other stuff that I don't know, that I'm weird about. But just perspective is so difficult to play with, especially in a cube-based game, that I just really, I don't know. It's a thing I should probably improve on, but I think this build actually improves on it a lot. And once again, I do want to bring your attention to the fact that I am going back to using darker blocks to push certain builds back with your eye, because it's just creating the illusion of depth. Like that one section that I just made is actually completely flush with the build next to it, but it just looks 2 or 3 blocks back, which just pushes everything that little tiny bit more than I play with. And then finally, I'm going through and I'm making the terrain interact with the build, like I said, and then finally I realized I have Axiom, and I don't have to manually put all this down. If you can figure out Axiom, please, I will always encourage it, because Axiom my love, Axiom my life. Yeah. And also, you're about to see a little peek of the weird structure I built where I'm trying to find the exact precise location that I want the build to be viewed from, which is that weird stripped spruce log right there. Also, the build is once again supposed to be on a cliff, and you were just seeing grass, which was not the aesthetic I wanted, so I did switch that up. And then manually go in and kind of smooth it out, just by hand, parts that I feel like looked a bit off. And then once again, what I'm doing here is I changed my FOV to, I think, about 35, which is usually where I take a screenshot. And then I tried to find the precise angle that I thought would make the build look the best. There was that empty spot, once again, that I keep mentioning, that I'm trying to avoid, just no empty spots. So I do go in and I add in another build right there. And this is around the exact angle. It's kind of zoomed out a bit, just on the video, but this is the angle that I end up using. And here you can see I'm trying to figure out how to interlap this new build, or this new building, with the tower behind it. And I end up doing it by using a darker block to push the aesthetic backwards and then lowering it a good chunk. And yeah, so here are the final moments of me flying back and forth, trying to figure out how specifically I want the build to look in its final moments. I'm also I'm doing very, very slight adjustments to both the build itself and also my positioning of where I'm going to take the final screenshot. And then I kind of figured out that if I used weathered copper on the blocks that I want to like on the roofs that I want to push backwards, it does add in a little bit of extra texture, which I quite like, and I think it helps the build a lot. And so I go through and I slowly add in that and kind of round the edges just a little bit more. And here you can see I'm actually just kind of going through, smoothing everything out, making sure it looks like what I want it to look like in the final moment. And please, eventually I do change those blocks. That sand, there we go. Thank God. Oh my God. That took way too long. But anyways, if you like this sort of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And I shall see you in the next video. Bye.